Hey guys, it's Luke here with New Age Thought, and today I wanted to talk about a subject that I've been thinking about a lot recently. It shows up on my phone every day, and really the crux of this video is about permission. Okay, the idea of permission, right? Um, there's two things that I want to talk about in this video regarding permission. The first is social media, the control of information on social media, how and what we can do to limit the exposure of certain things on social media to ourselves, our own brain, to protect our own brain, and also our family. And then on the other end of things, I want to talk about something a little bit more, well, actually they're equally serious, but kind of gain of function research in particular is another example of something that relates to permission. And you might be asking yourself, I don't really understand, what do you mean permission? What do you mean? Okay. We live in a world today, right, where there are governments and private companies, private institutions that are making extremely important decisions and powerful decisions that affect the entire world. They affect you, they affect your mom, they affect your brother, they will affect your children. They have ramifications on our world as a whole, right? So my belief is that after you pass a certain threshold, right, of what that, so basically, like, if you are, let's talk about like social media companies, right? Meta, TikTok, all that. If you are making decisions that are going to impact so many people that it will actually change the way people interact with each other and what they see, how they think, how they feel, you're actually now affecting the actual chemical reactions in their brain. I mean, they're literally I don't want to use the word hijacking, but they are tapping into your brain chemistry. You can go, how are they doing that, Luke? Well, okay. The introduction of TikTok and short form media, right? Like TikTok's endless doom scrolling, that whole thing, right? Nobody really asked you if that was okay. There was no, I mean, I know there was a couple senators and people who were kind of, raising the fire alarm here, but ultimately this sort of technology was being developed, and most people in the world had no idea that it was even coming along. We had YouTube, we had kind of longer form videos on YouTube. And what we saw is, as YouTube kind of was around for a while, you still had long form podcasts, which I think are the best way to actually access information. And the reason that is because all information kind of requires context. And I think it's really important to listen to what people say before and after, right? Granted, if you're just trying to get a quick message across, like short form can be beneficial, but ultimately there's a lot of problems with the short form format. For starters, right, I'm 30 years old, I'm an adult, I have the discernment to go look at what I'm seeing and go, is this really beneficial for my brain or for me in general, right? And I can do that. Now, if you're 8-10 years old, especially, like, let me speak particularly to my, if you're a young boy going through puberty and you go on Instagram, forget about it, man. I mean, you have so many hormones going through your body. I mean, I can barely not click on a picture of a hot girl, or they got ripped guys or whatever. They basically have cute animals and hot people, right? So your brain's getting all this dopamine. You don't have the discernment at a younger age to really even realize what's happening. You just know this is awesome. This feels great, you know? And what's actually happening is over time, the way your brain is experiencing the dopaminergic reaction is actually going to be different, right? So you're being bombarded all the time with dopamine, hot person, cute animal, this, you know, and, you know, whatever. It's hilarious. It will be like hot person, hot person, hot person, cute dog, you know, some topic that the algorithm thinks you like. And then you might see like something political thrown in there or something, you know, or and you know what's I've also been seeing on there, which I really don't like, is like kind of like violence, right? Like just like videos of like a store owner like defending his store, you know, which is like, all right, that's like a good thing, but you know, it's like I know there are people who are interested in that, but it's like I think that should be something that you probably should have to go and search, right? Search into YouTube and say, I want to view this. It shouldn't just be popping up on your feed, right? Because there's a you know, it just, I don't know. Okay, so why am I talking about this, right? These social media companies, they didn't ask for permission. When TikTok got introduced, I said, okay, fine. I'll just stay on YouTube and I won't watch the TikToks, right? Now I've made some short form TikToks like esque stuff on this channel before. And you know, I'm not saying that it should never be done. First off, we can't go back. The gate has already been opened, and that's really kind of a huge point I wanna make in this video. Is these are things that, number one, nobody's asking our permission, and number two, we can't really go back from. So they're affecting an enormous amount of people, and once these technologies are released, you can't really go back. It's out. It's out of the gate, right? That is a super dangerous combination, and is something that as a global society, we should have a say in how these things are released or developed. We must, okay? Because otherwise we're essentially forfeiting control of our entire world, our entire society, to a smaller group of people who are, you know, basically in charge of these technologies, whether it's in governments or companies, you know, biomedical companies, social media companies, governments. And one thing I think we need to ask ourselves is like, you know, I'll say this. I don't like the idea that if I have kids, they, no matter, like, even if I do everything right and I raise them right and I give them the right values, they're going into a world where they're going to be bombarded by so much crap on social media and across the board that, yeah, I think they'll be able to discern most of it, but they're still going to be affected by it. And I really don't like that. It's like, it used to be that, you know, I mean, think about it. The reason we have doors and locks on our doors or a Ring camera to the front door of our house is we want to be able to vet. If somebody comes to our door, or in this case, information comes to our door, we want to be able to vet what that is, who that is, before we just let that into our house, right? Because it could be bad. We don't have that power anymore, right? Like, nobody needs to come and knock on the door and say, hey, I'd like to talk to your kids about gender reassignment surgery, or hey, I'd like to talk to your kids or your family members about the efficacy of masks, or, you know, whatever it is, or, you know, it doesn't matter. It's like, you could at least go, is that something I want, you know, my family to talk about? Yeah, sure, okay, come on. If it's not, then you say no, go away. With the TikTok and the social media apparatus and YouTube and all this and Instagram and all this, there's no permission. People are making decisions on what kind of content they want you or your family members to see, and there's no permission. And that is a super dangerous thing. We need to be extremely observant about how this is affecting our society. They are literally affecting the way we think, right? So, you know, I think one of the reasons Elon bought X was, at least to the best of my knowledge, you know, he wanted to have a platform where there is free speech, okay? And to as much as that's, possible, right? We obviously direct threats and stuff like that, we still consider that a little bit different. But even if you want to say something false, knowingly false, you have the right to say that. And we can't be worried about, oh, well, that's going to mislead people, and I mean, yeah, that's a concern, right? But we need to have a healthy enough society where we can discern what people are saying. And what starts to happen is not only are we being bombarded by all these different topics on social media, but we're also being certain information is actually being controlled. So it's not only are we being bombarded, but the information that we are being bombarded by is specifically tailored, right? And if, for example, if you wanted to, back in, let's say, like 2020, kind of like peak COVID time, right? If you wanted to go on YouTube and say, hey, masks, I don't believe in the effectiveness of masks, right? Or regardless of whether that's a true or false statement, YouTube was shutting that down. They were actually taking down videos, and if not taking the video down, they were flagging the videos, putting sort of that little the real truth nugget below. It happens on lots of my videos. They'll put, if I talk about COVID or whatever, any polarizing subject that I have the right to talk about with free speech. YouTube will always put kind of like a Wikipedia thing going like, this is really how you should be thinking about this. And we wouldn't want you to get confused or anything like that. So that's one aspect of things, okay? The second aspect of things is I want to talk, and I feel like this is actually kind of associated with this subject, is specifically gain of function research. Now, there are other technologies that are dangerous, AI. I think I'm going to make a separate video on artificial intelligence, which is another thing that we are not really being asked about, that once let out of the gate is out of the gate, okay? And again, there's going to be positives, just like social media, and also negatives. The only thing is, we got to really be careful we don't go down a path that we can't turn back from, and all of a sudden it's real negative, right? But that AI, I'm going to make a separate video on. I'm going to keep this video under 15 minutes, so let me just make my points fast on this. Gain of function research. I know what it is. I'm certainly not declaring to be an expert on gain of function research, but essentially what's going on is you are studying and developing certain viruses and diseases in a controlled environment, sometimes making them either more contagious or adding elements to that virus that they didn't originally have. And the reason you're doing that is so that you can study those viruses and essentially get ahead of them. God forbid a virus like that were to be in the world, you could already be developing and researching vaccines to that specific virus because you're studying it in a controlled environment like a lab or something like that. The problem is, if you're spending all this time creating a super virus in order to defend yourself from a super virus, but then that super virus that you're creating for defense gets out and actually becomes the problem, where do we draw the line between, how much is this? What is the cost or like the risk analysis of gain of function research, right? The cost benefit, I definitely can understand why in a world like that we live in today, we would want to have certain defense mechanisms against somebody who wants to use a viral weapon. I completely understand that. Here's the problem: is when gain of function research is being developed or being done. Very rarely are Americans or people in other countries being asked if they want to vote on it. Maybe sometimes that happens, but a lot of times it's, biomedical companies basically just interacting with the government. And a lot of times this is done, it's considered a national security measure, right? So once you can label something as national security, well, all bets are off in interacting with that in a democratic fashion, because essentially the intelligence apparatus will get a hold of that and just say, well, it doesn't really matter what you think because this is a matter of, it's classified, it's a matter of national security, so it's not up to a democratic vote, right? Basically, I want to just end this video by saying we need to don't just go through life and go, oh wow, they're doing gain of function research, or oh wow, all of a sudden TikTok is introduced, and Instagram Shorts are introduced, and I kind of like this, but I definitely feel my brain getting kind of dumber by watching this. We need to start waking up as a society and saying, okay, these are, before the next thing comes out, we need to be more in the loop as a collective society, so that we can at least have a conversation about it. If we want a certain technology to be funded, then great. Okay, we can decide that. It's not up to me. It's up to everybody. We, as a collective society, we should be able to vote, I believe, on issues that affect a collective society. Right? It's like there's that sort of like mirroring thing, right? So I'm gonna end it there. Just pay attention, right? So my next video, I think I want to talk specifically about AI. So see you later.